Now to Palestine, where our correspondent in Gaza, Huda Hegazi, will give us all the details about the humanitarian truce that, after being cancelled by Israel on Thursday, was announced by authorities in Qatar that will be starting on Friday for a period of 4 days. All the information directly for Palestine with our correspondent.
Early on Wednesday morning, the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas announced that it had accepted the truce with Israel in the Gaza Strip for 4 consecutive days, which should have come into force on Thursday at 10 a.m. However, yesterday at 12 midnight, this Zionist entity announced that this humanitarian truce should be postponed for about 24 hours because there were clauses in this proposal that Israel had not accepted. One of the clauses is that Hamas has proposed that the tanks and soldiers of the Israeli occupation army should leave the residential areas in the city of Gaza, and Israel had not accepted that element and assured that the soldiers and tanks of the occupation army should remain in place. That was the reason why this humanitarian truce has been postponed for 24 hours. However, after calls of both sides, Qatar finally announced today at 4:30 p.m. local time in Gaza that this truce would come into effect on Friday morning at 7 a.m. Finally, the truce would come into effect. The conditions and closures of this truce is that Hamas must release 50 Israeli hostages of children and women in exchange for Israel to proceed to release 150 imprisoned Palestinians. We are also talking about children and women. No men or soldiers of the army of the Israeli occupation enter this truce. Also, another of the closures of this site is that the military attacks from both sides must stop completely in the Gaza Strip, and also the flight of the planes will stop completely, especially in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, for these 4 days, but in the northern and central area, the air operations will stop only for 6 hours daily, from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. These are the conditions and the closures of this proposed humanitarian truce for 4 consecutive days, and in view of this, Israel has also allowed the opening of the Rafah border, and everyday trucks with humanitarian aid will proceed to enter. Tomorrow, Friday, will proceed the entry of the trucks of medical supplies and medicines, and also 4 trucks of fuel, and all this aid will be distributed equally in all areas of the Gaza Strip. We are talking that this humanitarian aid will also include the northern and central areas. Finally, tomorrow the hostages will be exchanged at 4 p.m. local time in Gaza, and the humanitarian aid will arrive at 8 a.m.